A lot of things in modern life feel quite intangible, whether it's going to an app to stream any music that we want, or tapping our card in order to pay for something, and somewhere in the digital sphere some numbers go to some other numbers. The physical impact of what we do doesn't feel immediate. But as I've spoken about a bit before on this channel, the digital world absolutely does have an impact on our world, the environment, on people. Nothing on this planet doesn't have some kind of effect on our environment. So I've been wanting to clear up my digital footprint so that these everyday services have less of a negative impact on the world. And actually, some of the things I'm going to be talking about today really go beyond the digital and into big financial systems that really have a powerful domino effect. Basically, there are a bunch of things I've been meaning to do for ages, but I don't know about you, but non-urgent tasks with no deadline are my nemesis. It doesn't matter if it's only going to take 5 minutes, no deadline, no do. So I thought, rather than just explaining to you what you could try doing, I thought I could employ body doubling. If you haven't heard of body doubling, it's a technique often employed by ADHDers in order to get things done. It basically just means you have someone else in the room with you, and because they're working, it kind of gets you to work and to focus, and it's much easier to get things done. Knowing that someone in the future is watching this is going to get me to do all of the horrible, evil admin things that I hate doing. But I'm hoping that it returns the favour, and I'm going to structure this video so it can be a bit of a body doubling session. So you can hopefully put this video on and basically do the things next to me and use me as your accountability buddy. You are also welcome to just watch through this video to find out what things I'm going to suggest, but that's the kind of vision that I've had. I'm going to be running through tasks that I've declared to go from a kind of easy level up to hard, and then there'll be a bonus expert level at the end, so stick around for that. Also, just to mention that I'm going to be mentioning a lot of products and services, and none of this is sponsored. I am definitely not getting enough views to be getting any sponsorships, so all of these are just my personal recommendations. So starting off at the easy level, today I'm going to be switching to the Ecosia browser. If you're not familiar with Ecosia, it is a search engine that uses the profits that they earn from advertising in order to plant trees. So actually, even easier than easy, if you haven't been using Ecosia as your search engine, switch to Ecosia as your search engine, and then you've already made a great impact by planting lots of trees. What I really like about Ecosia is that they're not just sort of planting monocultural forests or anything like that. What they do is they work with existing projects and communities and help fund them to plant trees that suit the local biodiversity and hopefully also benefit the community in some way. So it doesn't fall prey to any kind of green colonialism or very dodgy carbon credits. It is, genuinely funding healthier forests in the world. They also do a lot of work around renewable funding, and all of the energy that Ecosia uses to provide your search results are all, I'm not sure if they're carbon neutral or carbon zero. They're probably carbon positive, because I know that they do so much to put renewable energy into the grid. Currently, I use Google Chrome. I have been using the Ecosia search engine for several years. Is it as good as Google? 95% of the time, yes, I can find exactly what I need. But I tell you one thing that I really appreciate, Ecosia isn't forcing any AI on you. None of that BS AI overview things that Google's giving you these days. So I've been using the search engine for several years, and now my plan is to move over to the full Ecosia browser, which they launched a year or two back. It supports them even more with planting trees, and I also just feel like it's good to get away from the monopoly of big tech as much as possible these days. Alright, so I'm going to start by downloading the Ecosia browser. So I've already got Ecosia as my default search engine, so it should be, right here. Use Ecosia browser. The greenest browser on earth. Great. Download Ecosia browser. Damn, it's already done. That was stupidly fast. It would probably be a good idea to sign up. I think I've already got an account. There we go. I mean, we love Ecosia, but it seems like all online services are a pain when it comes to signing up. What's weird is it looks identical to Chrome. Apparently I'm level 4, I've planted a single tree so far, and I've produced enough energy to power a laptop for 10 hours. Nice, cool. Well, I guess that's done then. The one thing I do want to do is import bookmarks. Yes, I would like to set Ecosia as my default browser. Import bookmarks and setting. Right, I'm just gonna search. Why is it not letting me click though? When I go to settings, it's just literally not letting me click on anything. Import your favourites and settings. Yes, I would like to do that. Aha! I think I just needed to turn it off and turn it on again as per. History, favourites, passwords, automatic completion, settings. Like normally I would want to kind of, I don't like giving lots of people my data and stuff. But I think in this case, I've been doing it to Google for all these years. Like this is just going to make it all super smooth to transition. So we'll import all of those. That's already done. Oh my god, that was quick. Aha, and that's great. It's got all of my saved, like, you know, if I type in my normal addresses that I tend to go to a lot, they're all there. Fantastic. So done. That took me, I think that took me 5 minutes. And the longest part was working out why it wouldn't let me click, and all I had to do was turn it off and turn it on again. So that was super simple. Great. For a medium level task, I'm going to be moving away from Spotify. Now, admittedly, this one isn't actually so much about kind of eco, it's more about human rights and justice, but you know, that's important too. And technically, if you want to be really purist about just helping the environment, there's pretty much nothing more polluting than war. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's probably going to be a very strange comment to make about Spotify. If you haven't heard, Daniel Ek, the CEO of Spotify, has taken 600 million euros of his Spotify shares and invested them in a startup company for AI war drones. That's right, your Spotify subscription is funding drones that are being designed to kill people automatically. If that isn't the most dystopian thing you've ever heard. I also think it's particularly disgusting given the music world's history of being so anti-war, and now one of the biggest figures in the music industry is using his billions to fund war. And in case that's not enough, there's two other reasons to move away from Spotify. Firstly, it is quite well known for many years now that Spotify really does not pay its artists well. And this particularly stings when aforementioned Daniel Ek is now richer than any musical artist ever. So obviously they're not actually needing to scrimp the pennies, they're just not paying the people who have, you know, made the platform what it is today. And the third reason to get away from Spotify is rejecting AI. I think I've made it quite clear before in this channel that I'm really not a fan of AI, and AI music in particular can get in the frickin' bin. Spotify isn't just not quite preventing, it is actively encouraging AI on its platform. Spotify is flooding its library with AI music, particularly in those playlists that we all love.
Since filming this video, I have watched some deep dives on the problems with not just Spotify but the music industry as a whole, and how the systems work today and are so rife with like exploitation, partly through AI but also through other scams, and also problems with like the terms and conditions when you sign up and put music on Spotify. I will put some links in the description. They all explain all of these things much better than I do. So to be fair, Spotify is not the sole cause of this problem. It's more about like how all of the music distributors are not doing enough to protect artists. I do still though think Spotify that is like a particularly bad actor in this case, because there are platforms like Deezer that are actively putting things in place to like resist AI exploitation, and Spotify is not doing any of that. So yeah, I'd really recommend going and watching some of those videos if you're interested in a bit more information about how all of this is really, really bad for musicians.
So even though I have been a loyal premium subscriber to Spotify for many years, it is time to go. So I'm going to start off by cancelling my Spotify subscription, and I'm not going to lie, this feels actually quite emotional for me. I've been a subscriber to Spotify for 10 years. I genuinely love their service. I use their music, their podcasts, their courses, but you know, I don't want to be funding war, so it's still time to go. So I'm on Spotify subscription, and I would like to cancel my subscription. You'll hear ads every 15 minutes. Okay, well, I'm not going to be using it anyway. So none of this is relevant to me because I'm not going to use it at all. Yeah, of course it's doing all the typical. It's like, oh, wait, don't go. I don't care. Continue to cancel. Yes, I would like to cancel. Right, good. This is what I wanted. It's very important that when you boycott things, that you don't just cancel and leave because they might not know why you are leaving. You've got to write letters, submit things, you know, you've always got to put your reasoning. So now it's time to write a little thing. Did you see King Midas and think he was an idol and forget golden age. So, angry letter written, always slightly satisfying. The next thing I would do is sign up to a new service for music, but I've actually already done that. Here's one I prepared earlier. What I actually did was a few weeks ago I signed up to Tidal. Yes, I have followed the trend that a lot of people are doing, which is going on to Tidal. There are lots of other services. I decided to go for this one because I realised with the family plan, and if I shared it with my housemates, it worked out as dirt fucking cheap actually. And my experience so far, basically, if a music distributor is worth their salt, all music that goes on Spotify should also be going on to Tidal, so everything is on Tidal that is on Spotify. But it actually often has better listening quality, so that's nice. The user interface, both on desktop and mobile, seem to be pretty much the same as Spotify, but if not a little bit simpler, which is kind of nice. I mean, there are tiny features that it doesn't have, things like sleep timer, for example, which is a shame, but I don't know, I think those sorts of things might come if more and more people use the service, and I haven't really missed it so far. Only thing that I have noticed with Tidal is that there seems to be a bit of a problem with how it handles smaller artists. So for example, I was looking up my friend Mila. Basically every Mila that exists, and there's actually a lot of Milas for some reason, they're all under one artist. So like all of my friend's music was mixed up with all of these other Mila's music, which obviously made it a bit difficult to find specifically her music, and I was very confused at first. I reckon it's something to do with artists not, like particularly smaller artists, not claiming their official Tidal page. I've had to go in as an artist and go, hey, can I claim my official Tidal page? And hopefully as Tidal gets bigger, more smaller artists will do that in the same way that they did for Spotify. I'm going to be using Tidal from now on. It seems to be pretty good. Another thing I'm also going to be doing is checking out Bandcamp a lot more, because that really more directly supports the artists. So I'm just going to be kind of diversifying where I get my music from, I think. But before I diversify, first I want to save all of my stuff. I'm a big discoverer when it comes to music. I'm actually not much of a repeat listener. I like to be listening to new music all the time, which is what I love, genuinely love about streaming. So I've got one hell of a library to move. But thankfully there are some services that do that for you. I know that there are services for playlists. I'm hoping I can find one for albums or artists as well, because I'm not actually much of a playlist person. I always listen to albums. So I had a really quick search and I found Tune My Music. Select the source, Spotify, and I'm going to sign in. Oh, it's done it automatically. Nice. Load from Spotify account. I wonder if I'm going to be able to do more than... Whoa! Entire library. Y'all, am I about to shift my entire library over, including all artists and albums? There's some really old stuff on here that I didn't know was there. My freaking Take That with a little X. That was made by 13-year-old me. That's embarrassing. Okay, but fine. It all gets transferred. I want to be switching it to Tidal. What is my Tidal password? First time. Love that for me. I can transfer all of my albums. I thought I was going to have to do it all manually. This is actually genuinely such a relief. I do have some playlists and I would like to transfer those as well at some point. But for me, actually, the thing that feels like it would take a long time is transferring all the albums and the artists. I'm going to miss using Spotify for podcasts so much. That is actually something else I need to do, is find an alternative service for podcasts. But I'm not going to do that today. We're focusing on the music today. And I'm going to move it to Tidal, start transfer. I love modern technology sometimes. I know that's very ironic because I'm always talking about how I don't like modern technology. But in this particular case, some of them haven't made it through. But apparently, all of the ones that haven't been transferred are like some of my really small, like, friends. But the vast majority has been moved. Right, let's try opening up Tidal. Artists. They're all there! I was so excited I grabbed my boobs. Some of these artists I don't even recognise, which goes to show that I maybe have too large of a library. Can I do another transfer? Aha, so I only have credits to move 500 things. I've moved a bunch. Are you ready? It's hard level time. Moving my money to another bank. I don't know how common knowledge it is what banks do with your money. Basically, when you give your money to a bank. They hold on to it for you. That's the whole deal. And you can take that money out whenever you want. But whilst they're holding on to your money, they can use that however they want. Banks take the collected money of all the people that have their money in the bank and they loan it out to companies generally that need funding. And then they can charge interest on those loans and the banks get the money back plus interest, and that's how they earn a profit. And unfortunately, most of the big banks in the world fund fossil fuels because it's one of the most profitable industries. There's a bit of a misconception that fossil fuels are like the cheapest and easiest form of energy and fuel, and it's really not true. Fossil fuels are expensive. Digging up oil from the bottom of the ocean is not a cheap endeavour. So what happens is they get loans from banks. And if your money is in an account with some of the big banks in the world, it is basically guaranteed that your money is funding fossil fuels, even though it is widely agreed that we need to be transferring away from fossil fuels and really can't afford, from an environmental perspective, to still be funding fossil fuel projects. Thankfully, there are some banks in the world that don't do this, ranging from kind of just not investing in fossil fuels all the way up to actively engaging with and actively funding sustainable and community-based projects. I happen to know that my main bank in Britain is a huge climate killer, so it is time to take my money out of their system. So I'm going to start by going to bank.green, and this is a wonderful website that allows you to check how good your bank is. Anyway, right, so I am with Santander. I already knew this. Santander, one of the worst. Number 7 in Europe for financing fossil fuels. $6.9 trillion. Oh my God. Into coal, oil and gas. But I also want to check my bank in Sweden. If you're not aware, I'm from the UK, but I live in Sweden, so obviously I have a bank here too. Yeah, it's pretty good. In fact, I think that's improved. I remember checking last time and it was more like, they could be a little bit more transparent, but they're doing pretty well. But now, they're a leader in climate responsibility. Exclusion policy for fossil fuels and focus on green lending products. Okay, so I don't have to move my Swedish money. So now I need to find a bank to move my money to in Britain. And guess what? They've made that super easy too. They've got a whole thing for sustainable banks. So these are some of the good banks. Triodos is actually, I've already got a savings account with Triodos and I've really loved them. I think they're actually award-winning, like they're considered one of the best banks in this area. But unfortunately, because I'm not currently living in Britain, I can't open a new account with them. But I think I'd rather put it into my current account. Oh wow, there's actually a lot. But that's the one I was looking for. Monzo, another bank that I already have an account with. How good are they? Doesn't invest or provide loans to the fossil industry. Fantastic. So I'm going to take it that Monzo is good enough. Go and log in to my bank. So that's something that I forgot to mention about Ecosia browser. They also show you, like when you're searching, whether the companies have been rated good or bad by Ecosia. And so here, when I Google Santander, there's a little fossil fuel sign showing that this is a particularly climate destructive company. I hadn't thought about the fact that today would half be just remembering password. What is my personal ID? God. Don't say it out loud, girl. Apparently I can't type numbers without saying them out loud. Why does everything have to be verified in 5 different places these days? Let me just type in the same number that I just typed in. Back in my day, you could just put in a password. I actually don't have much money left in here anyway, because I have been thinking about moving away from Santander for a very long time, so I've been like avoiding putting money in there. But let's just take the last bit so that there isn't a penny left. Yes, I would like to move my money. Yes. Blah, blah, blah. Authorise once again. So I will admit that this process is taking me much less time than I can imagine it would take other people, because if you haven't got another bank account to already be moving to, then you're going to have to set up a whole new bank account and that can be a right kerfuffle. So sorry, I've kind of cheated slightly. But I've given you two. Triodos and Monzo are both banks I've been using for a long time. I've been happy with both and can recommend them. Now, as I said before, it is very, very important to tell them why you're leaving. So help and contact us. No, I want to give feedback. I'm going to search it. Give feedback to Santander. How to complain. Excellent. I hate chatbots so much. I want to raise a new issue. Right, can you give a brief description of your issue? The climate crisis and funding fossil fuels. I have no idea what the automatic chatbot is going to say to that. When did this happen? Okay, in the 8 years since the climate agreement, Paris Agreement, Santander has continued to fund fossil fuels. I do not want my money being used in this way. This feels like a very odd way, like I wanted to write a full email. I have removed all of my money from my account. I will no longer be using Santander for transactions. Since I have been a loyal customer, I mean, my mum made me my Santander bank account 20 years. Oh my god, I'm showing my age. At this point, my camera died, and I spent a ridiculous amount of time going all over the Santander website trying to work out where to actually submit a formal complaint. Eventually, talking with the chatbot did get me two useful things. They sent me an email address for the sustainability department. This email address does not seem to be publicly available on the website, but by nagging them, I did get some kind of address to submit a complaint relevant to this topic. And they also sent me this climate sustainability report of 2024, which was just a load of greenwashing, talking about putting LED light bulbs in the offices, which obviously is good, but doesn't really do anything compared to, funding fossil fuel projects. So here I am writing the letter. I'm citing a few things to show that I know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that they are funding fossil fuels. I used bank.green. I also used banking on climate chaos. A key thing when writing these kind of letters is, don't stress too much about going into loads of detail. You don't need to sort of prove it to the nth degree, just show that you have some sources. And also another thing is, if you've been a loyal customer for a long time, I think that it's always good to point that out and say, how disappointed you are in the service, that this is such a big problem for you that you are willing to leave a service that you've been using for, maybe years or even decades. While it's only a small push when one customer leaves, if they continuously get emails and letters like this, eventually they start to realize that this is something that they do need to pay attention to if they want to keep their customer base. And that is why websites like bank.green exist, and why there are entire campaigns for getting people to leave their banks en masse. I will leave some resources and some organisations in the description if you would like to find more support. If writing a letter like this scares you a little bit, seems a little bit difficult, there are plenty of templates and suggestions for what you can do from all of these different services. All right, well done for making it this far. Really good job. I also hate admin, but we're struggling through it together. Now we're ready for the final level, which is expert level, moving your pension. Pensions are quite similar to banks in that all of that money that's sitting in a pot waiting for you until you retire can basically be invested however the companies want. There are many pension companies that are also bankrolling fossil fuels and deforestation. But thankfully, just like banks, it is possible to move your pension, or if your pension is specifically tied to your workplace, you can talk to your employer about getting everyone's pensions moved. But here's a confession, I'm not actually going to be doing this particular task with you today. Why not? I'm not a proper adult. I don't have a pension, or maybe I do. Basically for me, my pension's a lot more complicated because I potentially have pensions in 2 different countries. If I have a pension at all, which I'm not even sure if I do, it's going to require a few more steps than I can quite cope with handling today. But if you are a real adult and you know what you're doing with your life and you actually have a pension, then I highly recommend you look into this. If you're based in the UK, you can start by going to makemymoneymatter.co.uk, and much like bank.green, they have all of the information about which pension companies are good and which ones are bad. I know this is a bit hypocritical to encourage you to do this when I'm not doing it myself, but how about this? If you do it, I'll do it in the future. I promise. If you do this, you can really show off, and do show off to me in the comments. I'll be very, very proud of you. That was a lot of screen time, so I definitely had to get myself outside and remind myself why I was doing all of those things. Highly recommend that you do too. You deserve some fresh air after all of that admin. I hope that this is helpful and that it's maybe spurred you to take some actions to clean up your digital footprint. I know that there is so many other things that can be done, particularly around big tech and trying to reduce the monopolies there, but I'm not so much of an expert. If anyone knows about that, I would love to hear about it in the comments. If you have any recommendations of what else people can do. Oh, I hate doing the freaking YouTuber stuff, but if you liked this, please like it. If you would like to see more like this, please subscribe. And it looks like it's just about to start raining, so as always, I will leave you with a little moment of peace.